this lesson, we'll continue our exploration into the details of the different types of experiments. And for this lesson, our focus is going to be on the field experiment. And in this lesson, you learn about the advantages of using a field experiment methodology, and of course the limitations when you are conducting an experiment in the field or in the natural setting of the participants. Now let's talk about field experiments, and the field experiment that I already referred to is that of Piljavins, and we'll use that to go over the advantages and the downsides of field experiments in general. Piljavins experiment, as you know now, was conducted on a subway, which is literally the real world itself. And so the settings of field experiments are very natural for participants, and that's a big advantage because it hence also ensures that there is higher ecological validity, meaning that the setting, because it's in the real world, the results are more likely to be generalizable or very highly generalizable to real world settings. Second, in many cases in field experiments where participants do not know that they are in this experiment, so for instance with Piljavin, the participants were the passengers in subway carriages and they were unaware of being observed, which meant that their responses were completely natural to the perceived victim that they saw in the subway carriage. So their response of helping or not helping was absolutely natural because, again, it was on a subway. It was in the real world, this particular experiment. But this applies to all field experiments, that demand characteristics are reduced where the participants are unaware that they are part of or in a research study, right? And then you also know that in a field experiment, just because it's in the real world does not mean that you can't have an IV and DV. So in the independent variable of the victim or the actor who was playing a victim was obviously still possible in that natural setting, as was the DV, which was the likelihood of helping that perceived victim. So a field experiment will allow you to still have an IV and a DV, which is a strength because it gives you higher ecological validity, and it's not in a lab, which means that participant behavior is likely to be more natural. Because participant behavior is more natural, demand characteristics, which are a type of confounding variable, we call it a participant variable, are also reduced. And so you can say that a field experiment performs better when we assess validity of a field experiment, given that researchers have accurately operationalized all of their variables, of course. Next, let's look at the limitations of this kind of an experiment. So first up, because it is not always possible to control for interference, meaning to control for extraneous variables, a field experiment's results may sometimes lack validity or reliability because you cannot introduce a very high degree of control in a field experiment. Because also in a field experiment you may aim to have standardization, but standardization or the possibilities of standardizing the procedures of a field experiment is not always possible, which means that reduced standardization equals repetition or replication of a field experiment can be harder to do. Also remember that the field itself is always changing.
Quick pause. If you're finding value in this explanation, there's so much more to discover at Alt Academy, where we break down every A-level concept with the same clarity. Now back to the video lesson.
So when the field is changing, and this triangle here is a delta which represents change. So when the field is changing, repeating an experiment and trying to get the same results can also be different, right? So it can be difficult rather. So in Piljavin's case, in the subway carriage, if, let's say, he tries to repeat this field experiment on Christmas, where there aren't that many people traveling in the subway, he may get different results, possibly also because it's holiday season and people feel like being more charitable and more helpful. Who knows, right? So replication of a field experiment can be harder to do because the field is also changing and standardization is low. It is also sometimes difficult to get to the field site. So, for instance, if you wanted to do an experiment with actual prisoners in a jail, getting access to the jail to do your experiment could be incredibly difficult. Sometimes the field site might be physically very hard to reach. So let's assume you wanted to do an experiment on the psychological effects of climbing up Mount Everest. It would be extremely difficult for you to climb up Mount Everest to do your experiment. It's a very extreme example, but makes sense, right? And of course, because in a field experiment, participants may not always have consent, it can be very tricky to navigate the ethical situation of a field experiment. So how do you ensure that there is consent? How do you ensure that the ethics are preserved when you're doing a field experiment? That is the last sort of limitation where consent is tricky. Right, so with quasi or natural experiments, which remember are defined as such because of the independent variable being one that occurs naturally, the advantages are literally the same thing as the definition of a quasi experiment, where because the IV is naturally occurring, it's less prone to any kind of interference from the researcher. So what the researcher is seeing as the IV's effects on the DV is actually what is just absolutely naturally occurring, because the IV itself is naturally occurring. And the other advantage of natural experiments, also related to the IV itself, is that you can do them in a lab or a field setting, but the setting is essentially wherever the IV is found. So in the example of Baron Cohen that I provided earlier, Baron Cohen could conduct his experiment in a lab because high-functioning autism or Asperger's syndrome was present in the participants that chose to volunteer for his study. But in the earlier example of you as a researcher studying the effects of heat as your independent variable on athletes, you would obviously then just go to a field setting because your heat or the IV would only be accessible to you in an outdoor sports ground or playing ground, right? And so the field is determined more by the IV than by the experimenter, but also the naturally occurring IV can provide more choices to the researcher of where they would like to conduct their experiment. But like the other method types of experiments, this also has some limitations. So it's interesting because the advantage of a natural experiment is also a limitation, because the fact that the IV is naturally occurring and cannot be interfered with by the experimenter also means that the experimenter cannot manipulate the IV in any way to see how a different level of IV might impact the dependent variable. And so the experimenter's focus remains entirely on what is measurable, and what is measurable, because the IV is naturally occurring, is whatever the already existing difference or effect of IV is on the dependent variable. So there is nothing that the experimenter can do to create a new condition of the IV. The IV exists as it has already always existed. The experimenter cannot create a new condition of the IV, so you cannot see how the dependent variable would react to any other conditions or situations of the independent variable, which means that the entirety of a natural experiment can end up being a little bit limiting. So for instance, in Baron Cohen's experiment with high functioning autism, because HFA was naturally occurring, there's no way that Baron Cohen could, for example, increase the degree of autism in a person, right? So he had to work with what he had. Hence, he was only focused on the existing effect of high functioning autism on performance of the reading the mind and the eyes test based on the existing average level of autistic traits in his sample. So that's kind of how you would look at a quasi-experiment. But again, this is not a big part of your syllabus, so you don't really have to worry about it too much.
Hey there! If you found this A-Level Psychology lesson helpful, why don't you head on over to altacademy.org, where you can sign up for the full A-Level Psychology course. In addition to psychology, we offered 7 other A-Level subjects. Thousands of students have already taken the leap. What are you waiting for? I want to see you there.